Welcome to this session. We're going to go into a little bit of detail again on why real estate agents make the best real estate investors, okay? That's pretty much what the gist of this is going to be about. This is presented by the Vacant Home Guy. If you haven't got one of these postcards, you will, the Vacant Home Guy. And the Vacant Home Guy is an organization that I put together that's focusing on helping real estate agents bridge the gap between being an agent and being an investor. The biggest thing that you want to do is start shifting your thinking between being an agent and being an investor, not always focusing on commission. Commission is important, don't get me wrong. You want commission. Commission is good. Say yes, commission is good. But at the same time, some deals that land on your desk may be good investment opportunities. And that's something that I want you to keep in mind. Not always focusing on commission, but also focusing on investment opportunities that are going to land on your desk. Because as an agent, over time, you're definitely going to have different deals that land on your desk. Fair enough? Okay. Talk a little bit about my experience as a real estate agent, or just in real estate, period. I made my first purchase in real estate in 2003. Back then, I was about 25, 26 years old. And we had a thing called stated income loans. I don't know if you guys remember that, but we had stated income, 100% financing. So I took advantage of it because right now that's gone like dinosaurs. They don't make that anymore. That's, you know, like a 1967 Mustang. Good luck trying to find one. They're out there, you just can't get a new one. But nonetheless, my point is stated income, 100% financing, gone but not forgotten. That's how I made my first purchase in 2003. So that's what got me into real estate. That's what whet my appetite. It was a condo in Inglewood. I liked it. I, definitely could see the advantages of what real estate could bring. And then in 2005, I made another purchase with a real estate investor buddy, is a broker buddy of mine. And he said, hey man, I got some deals I want you to go in on as an investor. So I ended up going in on property with him. And one of those, because the market, crashed in like 07, 08, one of those I had to short sell and the other one got foreclosed on. And so in 2007, I said, let me get my real estate license. I want to learn a little bit more about how this worked. I had a chance to have purchased, my own primary residence, which I was able to stay in Inglewood from 2003 to 2007, 2017, actually. I bought another property in Gardena in 17, so I ended up moving. But nonetheless, I had my appetite wet in 2003 with a purchase, 2005, made two other purchases. Neither of those investments worked out for me. 2007, I got my real estate license. And so then it started to really click because being an agent, you're representing clients, you're starting to kind of really understand what it's like to be on both sides of the transaction as the seller, as well as being on the buyer side of the transaction. And so then in 2018, took me 11 years, but I finally got my broker's license in 2018. And then in 2017, I did my first real estate investment deal. So from between 2007 and 2017, talking 10 years before I did my first real estate investment deal. And there's several deals that landed on my desk, but I just didn't see the opportunity for me. How could I put this together? How could I do the deal? I just didn't understand how to do it. Like so many other real estate agents that are doing real estate every day, but don't own real estate, don't see how to do the deal on their desk for themselves, but only see how to put the sign in the yard or how to help the buyer buy the house and make a commission, which at least you figured that out. And that's a big part of the puzzle. Don't discredit that. I have several real estate agents who talk to me and they say, hey, I want to be a real estate investor. And I say, well, how many transactions have you done as a real estate agent? And they say, well, I just got my license. Okay, so you probably need a little bit more experience as a real estate agent before feeling comfortable being a real estate investor. Because there are certain aspects and elements and experiences and knowledge that you gain from each transaction you do, whether you've done 1 or 10 or 100 or 1,000 transactions. Each one of those transactions has been a learning experience that's going to play very heavily in you being a real estate investor. Thus, I think there's 7 reasons why real estate agents make the best real estate investors. Why? And these are my 7 reasons why I think real estate agents make the best real estate investors. Number 1, you already do real estate, so you're not learning something new. This isn't like you got to pick up something and learn, there's a learning curve. No, you already do real estate. And like I just mentioned, whether you've done 1 transaction, 10 transactions, 100, 1,000, each one of those plays a part in your experience in helping you to be a better real estate investor. You prospect the same. How do you get business now? How do you get business now? Do you do door knocking? Well, that's going to be a little hard in the midst of COVID, I'm sure. Do you run Facebook ads? Do you do mailers? I mean, you prospect pretty much the same right now as a real estate agent as you would as a real estate investor. You can run the numbers. If I ask any real estate agent who's zooming in with me right now, if I ask anybody to give me a CMA, run some comps for me. The house is beat up, needs work, run some comps for me. Let me know how much you think I can sell this house for. Would that be a challenge? No, you could get some comps for me. You could put that together for me. But what if my property was fixed up, turnkey, ready to go? Could you then run some numbers for me? Could you get me some comps? Absolutely, that wouldn't be a problem for you either, because as a real estate agent, that's something we know how to do really well. Well, that's a big part of being a real estate investor. We have to be able to run those numbers. Number 4, you have to shift your thinking and look through different lenses. I'm gonna say that again, because that one is the meat and potatoes of today's presentation. You have to shift your thinking and look through different lenses. You're not looking through the commission lens. You're looking through the investor lens. How can this deal be turned into net profit for me? Is there an opportunity here that I don't want to overlook? Number 5, you don't get paid until the deal closes. This is a big deal because, like, I don't know any real estate agent who's earning a commission without getting their deal to the finish line. If you are earning a commission without getting your deal to the finish line, please get in touch with me. Send me a link to your Zoom video. You know, I'll pay top dollar to figure out how to get paid a full commission without closing my deal. That's a big deal. That's amazing if you're doing that. I'm not talking about the payday advance. I know they got that. I'm not talking about the payday advance. I'm talking about you actually got paid a commission without actually your deal closing. That's incredible. Number 6, your clients will bring you deals. And this is a reason that you'll never hear me say, you know, stop being a real estate agent, only focus on, investing. No, the agency part is very important because clients sometimes would have properties that, they inherit, some land that's out somewhere that, is not of interest to them, that they want to unload. And because they know you do real estate, they'll bring you the opportunity to sell the property. And that's a big deal. We don't want to belittle what that can bring in at all. Your clients will bring you deals. Number 7, your flip is the sale. Okay. Your flip is the sale. What I'm saying is once the property is nice and pretty and all fixed up, how hard is it at that point to get the property sold? It's not hard at all, right? I mean, everybody wants a beautiful listing. That's the whole point in real estate. We want that $5 million listing overlooking the ocean. That's why we do this, to try and get that listing so that we can have a beautiful listing to tell people, hey, this is one I just sold. But it's not hard to flip the property once it's been beautified. Am I right? So these are my 7 reasons why I think real estate agents make the best real estate investors. The number 1 reason, as I pointed out, you already do real estate. So you're not learning something new. You're not learning something new. This isn't like you're doing, a dog walking business or a restaurant business. No, you're not doing something new. You're not doing anything new when it comes to this. You already speak real estate. You already know the terminology. That's a big deal. The terminology doesn't change as a real estate investor. The only thing that changes, you start looking a little bit more at the numbers. I mentioned earlier, how many transactions have you done? Have you done 1 transaction, 10 transactions? Have you been a buyer's agent? Have you been a listing agent? Because it's nice to know what both sides are looking at. It's nice to see a net proceeds sheet from a listing standpoint. As a buyer, you're looking at, the origination for the loan and the points on the loan and, the processor fee, the underwriting fee. Those aren't necessarily things that you're going to see on the listing side. On the listing side of that same closing statement, you're going to see the broker's commissions that are being paid out, the closing costs that's being credited to the buyer. So those are things that you need to understand in regard to your real estate transaction from both sides. It's great to be a buyer's agent, but it's also great to be a listing agent. And there's things that you can learn from being on both sides of the transaction that are going to help you tremendously with being a real estate investor because you know what to expect. I'll give you an example. I was talking to an investor that went in on a project of mine. He went in on a project of mine. We're in escrow. okay? Highlight escrow, in escrow, highlight that, okay? And he asked me the question, he said, Emil, why don't we have multiple offers? I said, dude, we're in escrow. Wait, we just need this offer to close. We don't care about multiple offers. We just need this deal to close. But why was that important to him? I said, well, what's the relevance of wanting to have multiple offers? And he told me, he said, well, I want to have multiple offers in backup position. And I said, we have a very qualified buyer. She really wants to buy the property. Her property is in escrow, so it's a contingent sale, but she's right at the finish line. Her buyers removed all their contingencies, so she needs a place to live. I feel pretty confident that she can get this done. But my point is, how did I know that? I was familiar with the process. You have a lot of investors that don't understand the process of real estate. They don't understand things from the buyer standpoint or the seller standpoint. What paperwork needs to be done, what reports need to be, the termite report that's, may or may not be a part of the contract, the closing costs, credit, or maybe there's not a credit. So these are things that investors just don't understand if they're just doing investing. And there's nothing wrong with just doing investing. That's a cool gig. But what I'm saying is, as a real estate agent, you understand the transactions better than someone who just does real estate investing. You understand what I'm getting at? That's a big deal, because you understand the parts of what the buyer's needing to do and what the seller is needing to do as well. Now, number 3 here, I put is, have you bought or sold your own residence before? Have you purchased property yourself? Now, again, there's a lot of agents I talk to, and agents say, oh, I haven't bought my own house before. And I'm not necessarily talking about, do you own property? Like, maybe you inherited a house from family, grandma left a house and that's been in the family for years and now your name's on title. Or maybe you married someone and your spouse has a property, you moved in and now you're on title. Yes, you have ownership in property, I get that. But I'm talking about, have you bought property before? Have you gone out yourself? Well, first off, backtrack. Have you saved a down payment, got your credit cleaned up if you need to clean it up? Do you have a 700 score, a 600 score? Did your lender have to really work some things to get your deal to the finish line? That's what I'm saying. Have you gone through the process of buying a property? I'll give you an example. I remember when I was doing my first deal, the one I bought in 2003 in Inglewood. And I was talking to my agent. I went out, talked to him. And actually, I got a picture of us right here. We used to work in the hospital together. I used to work doing respiratory therapy. I don't know if you can see that picture. But I keep this picture on my bookcase back here because now we're both brokers and we're both doing real estate full time. I'm actually trying to buy one of his duplexes right now as an investment property. So I keep this in the office, but I digress. My point was, at the time I was out there talking to him and his uncle came out and he says, hey man, I don't want you to get frustrated with the process of looking for a home and take your down payment money and go out and buy a car. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. I wouldn't do that. And so I remember going through the process in 2003. And if you remember real estate in 2003, it was hot. Everybody, qualified for stated income. So you write an offer today for, 190, but tomorrow to have 4 other offers on it, 195, 205, way higher than yours. So I got frustrated. And I remember thinking, man, I'm just going to take this down payment money and go buy a car. And it was like, oh my goodness, this dude knew this was going to happen. Like he spoke some wisdom to me in the very beginning. Because had he not told me that, I probably would have ended up going to get a new car, right? I wanted to make myself feel good. All my other offers had gotten rejected. I wasn't able to qualify for these other offers. So based on that, it's a part of the process. And that's why I say, have you bought property before? Because if you have, you can sympathize and empathize with what your client's going through if their offer doesn't get accepted, if they've had, the challenges of having to fix their credit, if whatever the process lends itself to, if you've purchased property and been in their shoes before, that helps tremendously as a real estate agent. If you haven't purchased property before as a real estate agent, just eventually look at trying to buy a property. Be an investor. It may be easier for you to get in on buying a property as an investor. Have you sold property before? That's a big deal too. Now, I didn't sell my first personal residence until 2017. And then I also did a transaction that year, which lended me the opportunity to be on the seller side. And it's a different experience because you have this emotion of like, who's this person buying my home? you know, are they deserving enough to buy my property? Yes, they gave me the offer, but you know, is it a single person? Is it a married? Do they have kids? You know, like you kind of start looking at different variables and things like that in regard to like just, you know, picking up the offer and going with a particular seller, a particular buyer to purchase your home. So I think those are different things. Like I'm adding some meat and potatoes. Again, I talked about the reason you already do real estate, but there's things that you learn from transactions and experiences in real estate that help you tremendously in regard to being a better real estate investor. So number 3 is you run the numbers the same, right? There's no big difference in the way you run the numbers. For instance, here's a property. This was the very first one that landed on my desk in 2011. Again, I got my real estate license in 2007. 2011, a client comes in and she says, hey, I need to sell my building. The stairs are falling apart. The property needs a lot of other deferred work. I lost my job, and at this point, you know, the rent money is kind of covering the note, but I'm not really in position to do much more in regard to fixing up because I need to live, you know. So I take the rent and I pay the mortgage and everything, but I can't fix the stairs. You know, I got a lot of dry rot that's going on. These are the stairs as they're going up, you know, that need to be repaired. So my question is to you as a real estate agent, can you run the numbers on this property? Can you give me some comps? Can you give me some comps on what you think this property would sell for? Absolutely. But you have to take into account the fear that a traditional buyer is going to have when they see this property in the bottom of the stairs. So if you look at right here, okay, right here on this picture, like I'm looking up, that's upstairs. There's a front door behind that railing for the upstairs unit. That person walks out of their front door and then this is underneath them. They can't see this when they walk out, but this is where they could possibly fall through if that's not reinforced. You know, I mean, the top part was fine, but the bottom was, you know, falling apart. So it's, you know, just a matter of time before wear and tear continued to create some type of problem. And that was the seller's issue. She said, look, I don't want to be a slumlord, and I definitely don't want there to be any issues where someone gets sued and then it becomes my problem. So for that reason, I would definitely like to sell this property. So with that being said, can you run some comps on the property in this condition? And as a real estate agent, I would like to think you could, right? Now, let's look at it after the fact. Let's look at this property now that it's fixed up. After. This is the same position. I'm underneath that front door. This is the railing right there. That's the front door. I'm in the same position, and I take a picture. Bam, right? Looks a lot better. These are the windows, all right? These are the stairs. The stairs are nice and pretty now, right? My point is, by doing this work, did that add value to this property? Absolutely. How much value did it add to the property? That's the question. That's where you as a real estate agent, you can come in and you can say, hey, well, because, you know, I know that this work was done to this property. They put in, you know, they didn't put in new windows. As you can see here, these are the same windows. The same windows. What happened was there's different wood trim that went in and it got painted, and that's it. But that adds a significant amount of value because the cosmetics of property is what makes people want to buy it or not buy it. So based on that, can you run the numbers? Absolutely you can. You can run the numbers. That's what you do. You can give somebody some comps. Now the rents didn't change, but the exterior of the property changed, which would make people want to pay more for that particular property. Fair enough? Okay, so let's keep going. You can run the numbers. All right, you can definitely run the numbers. So, let me see. I'm thinking, I don't know if our thing on the right is going to get in the way a little bit. If it does, then I'll just call it out. I'll call out what exactly the numbers are if our images to the right of the screen kind of get in the way of the numbers. I don't know if there's a way to move maybe we can reposition it. I'm not sure. I don't want to mess with it. I don't want to mess something up. Okay, here we go. So you run the numbers the same. My point is, here we go. We got two pictures there. We got a picture to our left, which was the before, and we have a picture to our right, which is the after. And of course, once the property is fixed up and looking great, that property on the right is a lot more appealing to the buyer, even with the rents being the same. The rents didn't change, but because that buyer doesn't have to go in and paint, they don't have to go in and, you know, make the grass green and do the landscaping and fix the stairs and, you know, fix the windows and things of that sort. There's a lot more value to the property on the right than the property on the left. Fair enough? All right, fair enough. And then this was keep in mind, this was the very first deal that landed on my desk, 2011. 2007, got my license. 2011, this hit my desk. And I knew it was a good deal. I knew this was a great deal, but I didn't know how to put financing together. I didn't know what my options were. Remember, I had a condo in 2003, so this would have been like, oh, how do I buy a 4-unit building if I already have a property? Not sure. Where do I get financing for? What are my financing options? Not sure. And there's a lot of uncertainty as a new investor in what you're going to experience. And that's perfectly okay. And that's why we have the Vacant Home Guide Network, the TVHG network. That's why we exist, so that you can reach out to me. Now, I don't know it all, but granted, there are people in my network that I can reach out to and say, hey, you know, what about this particular scenario? I got something I need your help with. So with that being said, these are the 2 properties. This landed on my desk in 2011. I knew this was a good deal. All right, so you can run the numbers. Absolutely, you run the numbers. Let's look at another example. Here's a property, another property, and this was really my light bulb moment here. This property landed on my desk in 2015. As you can see, even on the picture, can you see here? The railing, I call it the 6-year-old with the no teeth right there on the rail, like right there. That's hilarious. All the columns and the railing are missing. I laugh because I'll show you a picture in just a moment. This was the kitchen to that property. All right, so a little rough, you know, definitely needs some TLC. All right. Railings missing some teeth. Kitchen, all right, needs some work. This property landed on my desk. A client came in. She said, hey, you know, my parents are looking to sell a property. It's been in the family for a while, but, you know, family's just not taking care of it. There's no running water at the house. The power's been off for a couple years. I think they're running the gas generator in the back to generate power. So, yeah, I think it's time we just unload the property. So, another example. This is how it looked after they fixed it up. The bottom left corner picture. And I was laughing because if you notice here, these columns, they're missing. But if you notice here, like the investor, they still didn't put the columns in. They left, the house was still missing some front teeth is what I'm getting at, people. It was still missing a couple fronts. Even on the other side, it's missing a couple fronts. Needs a veneer or some dentures or something. So anyway, that's that particular property, even fixed up. But my point is, when you look at it from the outside, of course, it grabs your attention way more than the top picture. This bottom picture, it pops a lot more. And as an investor, you learn how to do that. But as a real estate agent, you've seen enough houses to where you can kind of get the idea of what it takes. Now let's look at that kitchen. Bam! Wow, same kitchen. You know, the sink is right in the same position, right in front of that window. They put in a dishwasher right here. The stove or microwave, same. The gas line was right there. So nothing really changed in that regard. Same exact property with those upgrades. This was my light bulb moment house. This was the house that I got as a listing. And, you know, the seller said, hey, can you get it sold for me? And I said, absolutely, I can get it sold for you. That's not a problem. I can get it sold for you. And in the midst of getting it sold, you know, I was able to represent the investor buyer. So they're, you know, hey, great. I ended up doubling in the deal, making some doubling the commission, dual agency. And investors are always open to that as an option. They'll let you double in. That's not a problem. Are we okay on sound? Sound like I might have. Let me check something out right quick. So, you know, the investor came on board. And as the investor, you know, I was able to, the investor purchased the property. I was able to represent them is what I'm trying to say. And while representing the investor, you know, it gave me a lot of insight on this particular transaction specifically. And I'll go into some details in just a moment about that on this particular deal. Number 4 is you have to start shifting your thinking. And I got some goofy glasses here just to make this point even more bold and memorable. Goofy glasses. Number 1, here's my real estate lenses. I'm looking through my deal through real estate commission lenses. All right. This is, I want to double in the deal. I want to have my sign in the yard. I want to, you know, get this commission, right? And that's perfectly okay, but you could be missing out on an opportunity. Again, 2011, this particular 4-unit that I put up here right now landed on my desk. right? There's nothing that says that I can't buy the property. If I'm able to give the seller their asking price, there's nothing that says in the real estate laws or anything, because we haven't signed a listing agreement. And even then you can still do it. But especially when the phone rings and you're meeting with the person, there's no reason that you can't put an offer together and present it to the seller. They called you to list the house. They called you to sell the house. So by all means, you can, if the property is what you're looking for, let me be careful what I'm saying here. If the property is what you're looking for, which I'm always looking for a deal, and you're giving them their asking price, because every seller's calling you with a price in mind, and you're able to give them that price, there's nothing that says you can't buy it. That's perfectly okay. So I'll even go a little bit further. And I got to put these investor glasses on while I say that, because we want to start thinking like investors, right? We want to have the investor lenses on when our phone rings. So I went on a listing appointment. I got a call. It was last September 2019. I still got the listing. We haven't sold it yet. And I went on that listing appointment, and I had a number in mind that I would purchase the property for. 420 was my number. And I had a listing agreement in my bag as well, in case they didn't want to go for the 420. So we got it. We good? All right. Goofy glasses off. All right. So here we go. So I went on this listing appointment, and in that listing appointment, I sat down with the sellers, and I told them that I'd be willing to offer them 420, as is, no repairs. And they said, oh, that's way lower than we want to sell the house. We're looking at 520. So because I knew our prices, my price was way off from where their price was, I decided, hey, it's better off if I just take the listing, which is going to be an opportunity as well. There's nothing wrong with taking a listing. And again, you'll never hear me say, stop doing real estate agency work. You always want to be able, again, that's one of our reasons. Your clients bring you deals, your phone's going to ring because you're a real estate agent, people are going to call you. So by all means, keep the phones ringing, because you just never know. I gave you two examples just now, one that landed on my desk in 2011, one that landed on my desk in 2015. That was my light bulb moment where things started to really click for me. Now, let's look at the numbers just a little bit. This property sold 2011. This property sold, and it may be cut off with us over here on the right side. It might be cut off on our grid. And let me see if there's a way I can show a high thumbnail. There we go. Okay. So this property sold 2011 for $472,000. Okay. 2011. That was 9 years ago. Property is in Inglewood, California, right by Sentinel and La Brea. So we know that area is popping. How much do you think that property is valued for today if you were to have kept it? Now, again, even at 472 in 2011, I knew that this 4-unit building, you got a 2-bedroom here, a 2-bedroom here, 1-bedroom here, and a 1-bedroom here. 2 of these units, 3 definitely cover the mortgage and most of the expenses and most of the costs. So if you have 4 doors, I mean, you're cash flowing on this property at 472, right? So how much do you think this 4-unit property, 2 1-bedrooms, 2 2-bedrooms is selling for today, 2020? Well, I mean, there's no question that it's definitely over 900,000. I think 900 is a conservative number. Depending on the rents, it could be even more than that. But we know Inglewood has definitely jumped up tremendously from 2011 till now. Now, we don't know what the market's going to be in the future, and I don't recommend necessarily buying properties based on future values. I recommend that you buy properties based on what it can do today. And I knew in 2011 that this was a good deal, but the question was, how do I get financing? How do I do the deal? I mean, I know it's a good deal, but how do I do it? And if you don't know how to do it, I mean, a lot of times we just don't know what we don't know. And I ended up selling it. I mean, I made a commission on it. I mean, I'm not crying that I didn't buy it. But if I knew then what I know now, oh, this would have been in my portfolio all day. So let's look at this property. Again, you have to start shifting your thinking. I gave you the goofy glasses example. You have to start shifting your thinking. This property is right there on the, it's right there on the picture. It tells us when this was taken. All right. And this was taken September 6, 2015, almost 5 years ago. This was sold. on the MLS. All right, 5 years ago. So I sold it in probably March or April of 2015 for $285,000. $285,000. I know, right? I mean, we're not going to be able to find anything for $285,000 in LA. This is in LA. This is off of like 48th and Normandy and Vernon, right over in that pocket of homes. Yeah, nothing over there is $285,000 right now, right? Now, how much do you think this home sold for after it was fixed up? Now, something did happen to this home. Got to give you a little insight. Something did happen to this home that hit the numbers up drastically. And the seller didn't mention this to me when I had the listing, but, and nobody knew. The investor didn't know. I didn't know. The investor found out because they had to pull county records based on their renovation. And they found out that the property was actually permitted as a duplex. I know, right? So, you know, they ended up finding gold. They found like another $75,000 by making a trip down to the county records that day, building and safety. But so they went and they resold it as a duplex. So again, 2015, they bought it for $285,000 and then they sold it for $550,000 about 6 months later. Right. So, you know, I'm not crying. You know, I was able to represent the seller and represent the buyer as dual agency on this property. $285,000 at 5% commission. You know, I mean, maybe we dropped it to 4, but let's just say we made about 11, 12 grand on the property in commission. And that's not terrible. You know, I'm not, you know, I don't feel like I got the short end of the stick. But as I pointed out, this was my light bulb house. This was my aha moment because I did the numbers. I did the numbers between 550 and 285, and I could see what the investor walked away with. I mean, conservatively, you know, the investor walked away with at least 150,000, you know, and net proceeds. Okay, so you look at, you know, 12, 14,000 in commission, not bad. We look at $150,000 in net proceeds, and you ask yourself, well, which one of these ends of the spectrum would I rather be on at the closing? I don't think it's, you know, I don't think anybody, maybe somebody's going to say, hey, I'd rather take the commission, but I think more people are going to say I'd rather be on the net proceeds side, provided I know how to do the deal, right? And that's where, again, you have to know how to do the deal. And you learn how to do the deal from being a real estate agent, but when opportunities land on your desk like this, there's no reason I couldn't have offered the seller $285,000. You know, if they subtracted my commission out of the deal, I could have bought it for, you know, $275,000. Could even got a little lower. Now, I didn't know that it was a duplex, you know, which makes the deal even sweeter. And if I had known that, it would have been even a little bit more reason to want to buy the property, because now it could even be an investment property versus just a flip. For me personally, I look at single family homes as my fix and flips, and units, 2 units, 3 units as my buy and holds. Or if it's a single family home and I can convert it into units, then those may be something that I want to buy and hold as well. So with that said, you know, this was a big eye opener for me. This particular property was a huge shift in my thinking. You know, when you look at your check and then you look at the investor's check and you say, wow, that landed on my desk. I mean, if that doesn't give you an aha moment, I don't know what will. So I think it's good to be able to start shifting your thinking without your opportunity coming up, you know, anytime in the near future, having set in on this session and not be able to kind of wrap your head around how to actually put the deal together yourself and make it happen. We can only grow as big as our network, the people that we know, the resources that we have. So number one, consider me a client. You can represent me. If you're a real estate agent and one of these lands on your desk, you say, hey, well, you know, I got an investor partner buddy that I know, you know, I can reach out to him and represent him as a client. You can double in a deal. But more importantly, you can shadow me on the project. There's a project that I'm gonna show you in just a minute on 6th Avenue that I completed. A couple people had a chance to shadow me on that project. I'll show you a before picture and an after picture in just a moment. Hang tight. I'm also in escrow right now on a duplex on 46th Street. It's a duplex, so for me, that's gonna be a buy and hold. Whenever I'm purchasing units, it's a little bit of a fixer. I'm getting it a little under market. The challenge with that has been there's a tenant that needs to be evicted, and we're trying to do an eviction in the midst of COVID. So we've been in escrow since February. That might actually be my longest escrow. But nonetheless, those are things that we can do in regards to the TVHG network. You can partner with me on a project. Like, let's say you're in the midst of doing things, but you're looking for investors to kind of come in on something you're working on. If you're, seasoned, I'm okay with, going in on a project with you. If you're not seasoned, then, I like to take the steering wheel, and you can be in the passenger seat, and we can get a deal to the finish line as partners on something. You get access to pre-market listings. So there's a couple projects that are going to hit the market that I, get emailed to me sometime. Hey, this hasn't hit the MLS just yet. The seller's trying to sell it for sale by owner, whatever the case may be. Are you interested? And, I'm looking for deals that have cushions, and I go through, a formula on how I come up with numbers. And if it's not going to have cushion, because cushion is important. I mean, if coronavirus has taught us as investors anything, it's like you can't have, it has to sell for 800,000 in order for this to work. Because what if it doesn't sell for 800? What if it sells for 750? What if you have to keep it? Things can change very rapidly. I remember early on, somebody told me that you always put cushion in your deal. I put cushion in my deal for 6th Avenue. On 6th Avenue, I put cushion in it, right? But even with the cushion, coronavirus still happened. So then what do? You got to be able to pivot with the market. And I talk about that in a YouTube video as well. But with that being said, get access to pre-market listings. Number 5, during normal times, I come out and I speak and share this presentation with your office. But we can set up a small group meeting, a Zoom meeting of some type. I don't have a problem with that. If this made sense to you, you want to share with a colleague, you want to share with a few people in your office, I just ask that at least 10 people RSVP so that we can put a small group meeting together. And I'll gladly share this information with you guys. Number 6, the next step I would urge you to do is to attend my TVHG training and invite a colleague. So number 1, we talk about VPNE. These are where and what to look for. VPNE. What does the V stand for? Vacant. That's why I'm the vacant home guy. I gave one of them away. The other ones you're going to have to figure out on your own, but if you sign up. So V is for vacant. Then there's a P, there's an N, there's an E for different properties to look at that are going to be good deals. Number 2, find your niche. You want to find your niche in regard to like what's going to work for you in this regard. How to get your deal financed. Most importantly, how to get your deal financed. I hear time and time again, people tell me, my biggest barrier to entry is I don't have the money. And I like to shoot that down. It's not about always having the money. When you look at projects that are being, developed in your area, on your way to work, on your way to pick your kids up from school, on your way to church, on your way to the grocery store, you see things that are being developed. Do you think that's one investor putting in 100% of his money or her money? Do you think that that is the case? I talked to you about how to get your deal financed and the ways that I've gotten my deals financed. And so far, I've been able to finance 3 or 4 transactions. Let's look at the numbers. And that's a very important part. You have to be able to look at the numbers to give yourself cushion. I know a lot of times when, wholesalers or somebody send me something, they talk about, oh, well, the ARV is this. And the ARV is so skinny. They're selling the property. They're trying to sell the property for 500 and the ARV is 575. Like, why would I buy that? It's 75,000. Like, I got to put 60,000 in it just to fix it up. It's okay maybe for a buy and hold, but for a fix and flip, it's not going to work. So you have to know how to run these numbers. And again, I'm looking at fix and flips and buy and holds. Number 5, same work, triple pay. Our goal here in the office, we have a saying, we got a shirt. I don't know if you can see it, the little logo that we have. Same work, triple pay. We head to the office thinking each day how to do the same work, but make triple pay. We're trying to work smarter, not harder. And I think if you're looking through different lenses as a real estate agent and also looking at being a real estate investor, you're definitely going to see how you can double and even triple your pay from doing these real estate investment deals. Very important there. Number 6 here is the TVHD training course is on Udemy. And it's always like some sale that they're running. I think right now it's like 60% off. It's like $15.99. I mean, this is going to be the best $15.99. It might be even lower than that. I think we looked 2 weeks ago and it was $9.99. So it's not something I'm trying to get rich on by doing a TVHD training course. It's just a part 2 to today. It's an hour and a half presentation of great information where you look a little bit more at the meat and potatoes of what it is about running numbers, where and what to look for, finding your niche, how to get your deal financed, looking at the numbers, which is most important. And then ultimately you want to do the same work, make triple pay. It's great to be a real estate agent. You got 2 or 3 listings, but you also got a project that you're working on. And when this project closes, that should net you $75,000. and you still got 2 or 3 listings. I mean, it's great to be on both sides of the transaction, and there's no reason that you can't do that. So that's going to be our time for today. Again, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. God bless you, and good night. We'll talk soon. Be well.